So I want to talk about bravery and courage on the left in politics, and there being a lack of it from a lot of people. So I got kicked out of my constituency Labour Party meeting tonight. The chairwoman, she decided that when I wrote in the messages section of the Zoom meeting a request that my motion I'd submitted about a week ago potentially be discussed in the any other business section of the meeting. And she flipped out, started shouting and carrying on, demanding that I deleted it. And every time I tried to speak, she shouted over me and I couldn't be heard. And this went on for several moments, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. And then eventually when I realised I just could not get a word in, the words I was trying to get in is, I don't know how to delete my message. So eventually I rose my voice above the level of hers to be heard. And then, boom, she got me. I'd shouted and acted inappropriately. Now, it was appropriate in the context of the meeting and in the context of her behaviour. But taken out of context, she can make the claim that that behaviour on its own was inappropriate. And so she kicked me out. Bit silly on my part. I shouldn't have fell for the trap. But that aside, moment there where I quickly shouted above her, asking for a vote of no confidence from the floor in the chair. And I asked, will anybody second it? Nobody seconded it. I'm in a room that's got 20 to 30 socialists that are, solid Corbynista socialists who would like to think of themselves as the modern day equivalent of the International Brigade. But none of them were brave enough to stand up and put the neck out and say, I second that motion. Can we have a vote of no confidence in the chair and have the vice chair take over? That's what you do when a chair's misbehaving. You quickly jump in there, whether it's at a CLP or a branch or even at party conference. You jump up on that stage and you say, I demand a vote of no confidence in the chair from the floor. Does anyone second it? And then you're legitimate. And then you ask for a show of hands. And that's how you deal with a misbehaving chair. Otherwise, the chair becomes a dictator that can do whatever they please. We can't have that. We're not a dictatorship. We are a democratic party. It's one of our biggest weaknesses, but it's supposed to be one of our biggest strengths. So you stand up and demand it in situations like this. Now you're probably wondering what the motion was. The motion was a motion asking for Keir Starmer to step down very kindly, thanking him for his services, and have the deputy leader Angela Rayner step in and take over until such a time that we can elect a new leader. So not at all controversial, considering the disaster that we've just had, the worst election results possibly in the party's history, certainly since the early 1930s. Some 20 points, was it 20 points or 24 points behind the worst election Corbyn was involved in 2019, the Brexit election, at the most polarising time in British politics. So it's probably a fair thing to ask for Starmer to stand down. So here we are. Nobody stood up for me. One man did then ask for me to be readmitted, and the chairwoman properly asked the floor to scope an opinion on that. She didn't formally ask for the vote. She asked if there was anybody who would like me to be readmitted. And again, not a single person had the courage to stand up and say, actually, yes, I would like Gavin to be reinstated. Without even looking at the motion, they should have been able to say that. But yeah, they let me down. So, are you the sort of person who would put their neck out and would stand up to, speak truth to power? So many lefties love that phrase. We love to say that we're the sort of people who will speak truth to power. But are you really? Or are you a coward as well? Because I know for a fact there are way more cowards on the left than they are brave people who will speak truth to power. Even small power. Constituency, Labour Party officers. Small power. And you're scared to stand up to them. If you're scared to stand up to them, then you're not going to stand up to the courts and defend people's rights. You're not going to stand up for anybody. You're no good to anybody if you can't even stand up to officers inside of the Labour Party. So, what does it take to be courageous inside of politics? Have you any examples of that? Can you let me know in the comments below times when you've had to be courageous and put your neck out? And how far would you actually go? Have a think about that. If you weren't the sort of person who would stand up and be, and speak truth to power, then before you heard this, then find a backbone and be the sort of person who's going to stand up for what's right and speak truth to power. Moving on from here. There's a hell of a lot of good people who are good socialists who want the very best for everybody. And I love yous, but you're not brave enough. And it's no wonder you keep losing. So comments below. Let's have this conversation. Take care.